I'm going to be covering the most awesome, high energy, fantastic, tremendously educational real estate subject out there. I wouldn't go that far. I will be discussing CC&Rs that always accompany an HOA. And it's just something we have to cover. I'm sorry, but it has to be done. It's kind of like eating your broccoli. But I will be discussing some information that I'm sure you haven't heard of before. Hi, I'm Gordon Baker with RE/MAX Alliance Group, and today we're going to be talking about CC&Rs, which stands for Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions, and some things you really need to be aware of. Why? Because the majority of Arizona residents live in a community that has an HOA. As of 2017, 56% of all Arizona single-family dwellings had an HOA, and as of for all the homes built since 2000, that number rises to 80%, and that doesn't include the townhouses and condos, which typically always have an HOA. Now, as far as HOAs go, I tell clients sometimes you swear at them, sometimes you swear by them, and sometimes it's all on the same day. A quick note, you can have CC&Rs attached to the property but not be in an active HOA. That's why it's so important to check the title report for the existence of CC&Rs, and typically they would be architectural or use restrictions. Now check Schedule B in the title report. When do you receive this coveted information in a resale transaction? The title company has 5 days in which to notify the HOA of the upcoming transaction, and the HOA in turn has 10 days in which to get the information, supply the information to the buyer. And at this point, you're well into the transaction, most likely after the inspection period. Now, the contract states that the buyer is allowed 5 days after receipt of the information from the seller or homeowners association to provide written notice of any items disapproved. Now that's this weird and strange way of saying that you can cancel the contract. Now you'll receive this by email, so when you do, review them, and if you see something you just can't live with, you want to cancel the contract, you need to notify the title company within 5 calendar days of having received the information from the HOA. Now for a new build, you'll receive the information before you sign. Sometimes it's maybe just it's literally minutes before. I have seen when they say, here's the public report, here's the CC&Rs, and great, here's the contract, and please sign. Ask for the CC&Rs with ample time to review them so you understand what you're willing to live by. If someone came to me and said, Gordon, I only have 10 minutes to review the CC&Rs, so tell me the top 5 areas or concerns that I need to be focused on. This is what my response would be. First is leasing and renting. Now, if you're concerned about short-term rentals in the neighborhood, or on the other hand, if you are somebody who wants to use the property for the purpose of a short-term rental or want to rent out any of the rooms, please be aware of the following verbiage which you may find. No lease shall be for a rental period of less than 30 days, or no owner may lease less than the entire lot and residence situated thereon. And this is wording I actually found in CC&Rs. The next would be parking and vehicles, and not researching this could be a major mistake. For example, you'll frequently find verbiage such as no mobile home, boat, travel trailer, camper shell, or other similar equipment may be parked, kept, or stored on any lot so as to be visible from the neighboring property. And even more restrictive wording that I was able to find in a CC&R was no motor vehicle may be parked on the streets if the space for the parking of the motor vehicle is available in any of the following: the garage, the driveway, or driveway expansion. I actually called the HOA on this, and I was told that it was to prevent and eliminate overnight parking on the streets. Well, that's not what it said, and I must admit I had never seen anything as restrictive as this that I did find in a copy of the CC&Rs. No garage shall be converted to living spaces or altered or used for storage of material or other purposes so as not to allow for the parking of at least 2 vehicles. Okay, what do I do with the weed eater, the lawnmower, the bicycles, the Christmas decorations, the table saw? Okay, moving on. Animals or pet restrictions. An association can regulate or can restrict the type, size, breed, and number of pets that a homeowner may keep. An exception to this would be a support animal for a disabled occupant. Another aspect is making sure that pets aren't bothering a neighbor. Common verbiage that you might find would be, no animal or bird permitted on a lot shall be allowed to make an unreasonable amount of noise or become a nuisance to disturb the health, safety, and welfare and quiet enjoyment of other lot owners. Now the next one is architectural restrictions. This is a very, very common component of CC&Rs. Essentially that you can't make any changes to the exterior paint, landscaping, fences, walls, solar collectors until the changes have been submitted to and approved by an architectural committee or review board. Now the last area that to focus on is the residential use and limitations. Of all the CC&Rs that I've reviewed, they all pretty much say that the residents and the lots are devoted exclusively for residential use, and this is very common sense. Then they proceed to carve out certain conditions or exceptions whereby owners can use their residence for in a business setting. And for example, I mean, a lot of people are now working from home, using a part of their house for their business activity. And other things that I've found might say that the business does not involve persons coming to the lot to purchase goods or services, or the business is not incompatible with the residential character of the subdivision, and there are no employees working in or from the residence who is not a resident. And the volume of vehicular or pedestrian traffic or parking generated by the business does not result in congestion in that, or is in excess of what is customary in a residential neighborhood. Now, I'm bringing all these up. This is actual verbiage in CC&Rs, so that to highlight the need to review them. A general observation: the older neighborhoods seem to typically have more flexible CC&Rs, while the newer neighborhoods have ones that have more detailed restrictions. Now is for the bonus tip that I promised from the beginning of the video. Okay, just had to check the pulse because this next section tends to get my heart pumping and the pulse going a little bit faster. Do you know how difficult it is to change CC&Rs? Do you think it's kind of a pain? Is it hard? I'll tell you, it's next to impossible. The chances of getting CC&Rs changed are like that. There's just a sliver of a ray of hope of chance of getting them changed. That's because you need 2/3 majority of the members to change the CC&Rs. So the question I have is, if there's laws and legislation that changes that run counter to the published CC&Rs, how do they get changed? They don't. So that means that when you read CC&Rs, there's portions of them that could most likely be outdated. Also surprising is that CC&Rs may contain language that goes contrary to laws and legislation that are in place when those CC&Rs were written and recorded and published. Yep, I can hear you saying, no, Gordon, that doesn't seem right. That's just counterintuitive. Why would they do that? That sounds a little bit sketchy. Buckle up, mijo. We're going to be talking about that. So let's take the example of signs. Now, maybe can you put up a political sign? It's an election year, or maybe that's a little bit too controversial. So let's talk about what about a for sale sign, a for lease sign? That doesn't seem very offensive. I won't tell you which community this comes from, but the CC&Rs were filed and recorded in 2019, so it's rather recent. And in regards to signs, they state, no signs whatsoever, including but not limited to for sale or for lease signs, may be erected, posted, or displayed on any lot. Wow, that sounds like they don't like signs, and they really don't like for sale or for lease signs. But a couple lines down they do say, except for the following signs which the association is required by applicable law to permit. Okay, so what signs might those be? Now, most people, they're not going to worry and try and find out what applicable what applicable laws apply to the signs, but let's just say that they are looking and they get lucky and they stumble across something called the Arizona Revised Statutes. And say it's their day and they stumble across, they get even luckier and they find something called ARS 33-1808, which states, notwithstanding any provision in the community documentation, an association shall not prohibit or charge a fee for the use of, placement of, or the indoor or outdoor display of a for sale, for rent, or for lease sign. Wow, well in my mind, that's a little bit confusing. You prohibit a type of sign that the law says is permitted. You tell me, did I miss something? So the takeaway from this is that if you feel like the CC&Rs are overreaching and that they violate common sense, I would strongly suggest a thorough reading of Arizona ARS Title 33, Chapter 16, Planned Communities. This sets the legal boundaries as to what HOAs can require of their homeowners. So in summary, here are the more relevant things that I think you should be reviewing when you look over the CC&Rs. Leasing and renting, parking and vehicles, animals and pet restrictions, architectural restrictions, and residential use restrictions. And equally important, I think more important is to give a thorough reading to ARS Title 33, Chapter 16, Planned Communities, that will give you the most updated laws and legislation regarding HOAs and also provide the legal boundaries that HOAs should operate under. Now, okay, this went a little bit longer than I really thought it would, but I thought there was I think there's a lot of good information in here. And did I miss anything? Have you had any experiences with HOAs, good or bad? Because I think there are some good HOAs out there that do help maintain the property values of the members that they serve. And if you want to be notified of future real estate videos that I do, please subscribe. And if you found this helpful, please like it and comment below. I'm Gordon Baker with RE/MAX Alliance Group, and after watching this, if you still have any questions, please reach out to me. I'm glad to help. Thank you. You can have CC&Rs on a property but not be in an active HOA. That's why you can have CC&Rs on a property but not be in. Now you'll receive these by email, and I forgot to read what's in the contract, so we'll start over.